Hi everyone, and welcome to week 4 of the Hometown Charm Sew Along, hosted by Pat Sloan at her website ilovetomakequilts.com. If you haven't done so already, jump over there, grab your pattern, come back, and I'll show you how to do it. Who doesn't love a sailboat? This week we've got a simpler block with some half square triangles, one sew and flip section, and then solid pieces to sew together. Over here I'm pointing out my half square triangle fabric for the sails. This 2 pieces here will become the sew and flip with the red for the base of my boat, and these other pieces are just for the background. Let's get started with the half square triangles. We've all made half square triangles 1,000 times in our lives, as they are a fundamental building block of any quilt. But in simple terms, you start with 2 squares that are slightly bigger than the resulting size. You draw a line from corner to corner on one piece of the fabric, and then you sew 1/4 of an inch either side of that drawn line, cut along the drawn line, press and trim, or trim in your desired method. We'll go through that in a minute. So what I'm also going to get ready while I'm going over to the sewing machine is the sew and flip section. And they are also another fundamental part of any quilting project. We need to make the bottom of the boat here. So once again, I've got my drawn line and I'm placing them as per the pattern directions. And then we will sew just to the right on the outside of that drawn line, and that gives you enough fabric for when you are pressing or folding over your fabric so that your piece remains square. To the sewing machine. Now, wait a minute, I hear you saying, did he just sew on the wrong side of his drawn line? Let's watch what happened in slow motion. Here we go. I've zoomed in so that you can see what I did there. I actually moved the needle over so that I could sew from the solid side of the fabric, not risking the corner getting swallowed in. Now I'm going to show you here that I did indeed sew on the outside of that line, and we'll press and trim that later. I am now going to do the half square triangles. With everything sewn, I am now going to cut the half square triangles in half along the drawn line, and then I'm going to give everything a good press. We'll press the half square triangles open, and I also like to press my sew and flips before I trim them. I just think that the stitching line and the extra fabric gives it stability, and the bias is less likely to stretch. I've just found that that's what works. With my sew and flips, I always like to look at the back first to make sure that I've maintained squareness. And in this instance, it's a little bit off and I'm not too concerned about that. So now we're just going to trim 1/4 of an inch away from our sewn line for a seam allowance, and that section will be done. We then need to square up our half square triangles, which we have done before. So I am going to fast forward through that. Just trim yours to the size noted in the pattern. Now that we have our half square triangles trimmed down and perfect, it's time to make the sail section of our boat. For this, we need to place the 4 half square triangles in the middle as per the pattern, and we have 2 background pieces that will go either side. We will start with constructing the 4 patch in the middle and then sewing the outside pieces on. The 4 patch is done by doing the 2 vertical seams, then the horizontal, and then we'll add the outside pieces. Let's go! We need to press our half square triangle units open now, and as I'm known to do, I am just going to put a little clip in the middle of our seam allowance here so that I can control which way the bulk of the half square triangle goes. So I'm showing you on the back here that I'm just pushing them both to the path of least resistance, and I'll give that a press, and I'll do that on both of them before sewing the vertical seam. Once again, to control the bulk in the middle here, I am going to twirl the seams. So all I'm doing here is picking out the few stitches that are above the seam line that I've just sewn on both sides, just so that I can separate those out. I give it a bit of a twist, and then you twirl the center. I lay it down on the mat, and your seams go in opposite directions, and you can see in the middle there that they kind of twirl. That will allow for us to control where the bulk goes in all 4 directions. I'll give that an all over press now to ensure it's nice and flat before attaching both of the side background pieces, and our top half of the boat will be done. Turning our attention back to the body of the boat now, you'll see here I'm just squaring up this one little edge that was sticking over a bit. Look out for the big scary head popping in, and just trimming that off to make sure that I have it square. It's not that much that it was going to bother me, but I needed to trim it off. Now we just need to attach that part to the water and then attach that bottom half of the block to the sails. Back at the ironing mat, we'll just give that a quick press, and this week's block is done. Thank you for joining me again this week. As always, see you again next week. If you like what you see, hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't. What's stopping you? Ciao.